Hello, hello. Welcome back to another edition of DevHub Live. We are back together, Owen. It's been a while since we've actually been on the same episode. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you finally after how long has it been? Must be like a month or so since we're on this together.
Yeah. I did a couple by myself. You did one by yourself, and so yeah, it's been a little bit. But since then, you are a hackathon winner, which is exciting. And also, too, are you back in merry old England, or are you still on the road?
Yeah, I'm in a new room, as you might be able to see, just upgraded my chair. That's the old horrible one, but I
Right.
heard that this chair increases DevRel efficiency by
There you go.
circa 30%.
So,
So
nice.
yeah, we nice new setup, ready to
Awesome.
go
Awesome.
hard again.
That's the spirit. So there's been so much happening in the near ecosystem that I thought it would be great to kind of level set a little bit and go over some news from the past few weeks and take the time to really digest what's happening. Because for one, I mean, you know this very well because you're actually writing the newsletter, but there's been just a lot of stuff coming out quickly, especially because of Redacted,
Yeah.
that I feel like is not really getting across to people. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then, as always, as people are watching, if they have questions, they're always more than welcome to submit a question, comment on whatever stream you're watching this on. You can submit a question, and if it's reasonable, besides like token price, we will maybe answer it and go from there. But yeah, sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah, with the newsletter, I noticed that we had to push items back and back after redacted because there was just so much news there.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot has come out recently,
So,
and it's definitely good to look back and not forget all the updates.
yeah, definitely. And let me resize this a bit so it looks better. There we go. So this was the newsletter from 2 weeks ago. I think this is a good place to maybe start.
Mm.
So coming out of Redacted, the message is near as the blockchain for AI. And there's four key parts that go to this. And I thought you listed them out pretty well here, right? So user owned, intense,
Well,
chain
I
tracking.
literally stole that from Ilya's slides.
Right.
I thought
So
he put it pretty well, so
yeah,
I just implanted it there.
perfect. So it's coming from the top dog here, right? So coming down, and we see that these four things, including the sharded blockchain, really help solidify that. And the message around near AI for getting started right now seems to be about building agents. Is that your sentiment too?
Yeah. Well, I think it's multiple things. And I think not just like if you go back up to those 4 points, I was considering adding another point uh, along those lines, and but it's quite represented nicely by this image here, is that there's not just like specific things that have been building out to aid this mission that are listed there as like what near ecosystem nodes are doing, but it's also becoming the ecosystem for AI. And I think we're introducing and seeing a lot of providers and infrastructure, as you can see in this graph. Diagram. There's a bunch of providers here
Yeah.
and applications, and the more AI projects and products there are inside the ecosystem, I
Mm-hmm.
think the easier it becomes to build an AI product yourself. Like we've heard this term, data is the new oil, tossed around a load. And I think that's especially prevalent here
Yeah.
with all these like scrapers and whatever providing data and other tools. It just makes it a ton easier to build your agent here on there. And then like above, you can just broadcast your transaction to nearly whatever chain with like chain signatures. The chain can handle it because it's sharded and scalable.
Yeah.
And we're introducing like intent systems, so you can, I guess, say you want something doing it, and then a solver, and that solver being an agent, can come and fulfill that request and complete that transaction for you. So we're
Yeah.
really seeing it come together here.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah, the provider ecosystem is often glossed over, or it's not something that it doesn't. It's not a sexy thing, right? It's just like, okay, like infrastructure never really gains those news headlines, but as more come in to the ecosystem, the ability for developers to be more creative and actually kind of start to try different things really opens up for them as well.
Yeah, 100%.
So right off the bat, Near AI is releasing the ability to actually make your own agents on top of it. Pierre did a workshop. I actually talked about it on the live stream. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago now. About just kind of going through what he did, and he showed off how it could render pages in real time and all this really cool stuff. And I really think that this is something that hopefully people start to understand, that it is not just a like chat GPT wrapper. The idea here is not just about like we're leveraging AI models to do mundane tasks. This is actually, you can start to really think further outside of the box. Like you said, this infrastructure coming in allows you to be a little more creative. And so Pierre started to show that, which I think this was a decent presentation of getting started here.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a lot of these agents become really quite specialized. In a lot of the agent explorers at the moment tend to be, you search like, hey, I want to have this, I want to interact with a DAO, so I find the DAO agent, or I want to swap some token, or I want to do some non-crypto related thing, I want to file my taxes or whatever. I'm really interested to see these all sort of come together in an agent explorer where you have like a more generalized wrapper that will navigate you to the correct agent, and then that executes for you, so you don't even have to think, hey, what's the best agent for this task. It just handles it all for you.
Yeah, great point there. And that kind of leads into a little bit of like what the next story was here of Near AI Assistant, and like what that actually looks like. I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about. I'll put it on the screen here, but this was kind of something that was a little bit new here as well for Near. I know people have tried to do it before too, but let me see.
And if I'm remembering correctly, I think the AI assistant was meant to be somewhat of like a showcase of what you can do with these agents you're building, and like the sort of alpha agent or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, there's some interesting features. I remember like it saved chat history, so I think an example was showing it would remember like your favorite color or something, and then you can loop it in, and well, you can see at the bottom you can connect your Near wallet, so you can actually perform tasks for you, because a lot of models at the moment, it just tells you information, but it won't do much actually for you. But especially with crypto and AI, we're seeing, hey, I can give my agent access to my bank, or well, essentially my bank with my wallet, and it can do financial actions for me.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, and I haven't played around with this too much, but again, they demoed this a bit. This is something that you can try yourselves right now. And yeah, the idea here is like, right, it's the agent to control other agents and like leverage other stuff. And again, as a user experience, the idea here hopefully is that like you're not, if everyone's making all these specialized agents, they can then pull them together and actually orchestrate them in different ways. And so good experiment and good stuff checking out there.
Yeah, and I think this ties well into like the agent payments that I know a few teams like Nevermind are working on, and where you'll see there being more complex and larger tasks where it will need multiple different agents. So you can really see like where agent payments is going to be coming, because you'll be leveraging like multiple agents, so they'll be passing like finances from each other to perform these tasks and maybe even pay for its usage.
Yep, absolutely. A couple of quick stories. OmniBridge. I think the best bet is actually just to watch Bowen talk about it. He's gonna explain it better than I think either one of us are going to. But the idea, I mean, again, like we talk about chain abstraction and chain signatures, and when you look at what this starts to look like, having a provider there that is actually supporting the things like here's like the actual crushing transactions, not just sending signatures, is an important piece. And this infrastructure really is critical to, I think, chain abstraction being recognized as a viable path for products, where some right now I feel like it's just experimenting, but now these are the type of stuff that gets you going to maybe get to production.
Yeah, I think the OmniBridge is really quite interesting, and I see it more as like a sort of like a UX tool, as in I don't believe it's that much of like a product itself, but more like a wrapper around different interoperability solutions, mainly chain signatures and then other like light clients and message passing protocols.
Right.
And I know that they're building an SDK out for that. And I'll be interested to see like, well, I'm building my own app and it lives on there. So I'll be interested to see how I can use OmniBridge to facilitate payments into my app from whatever chain you're on.
Right. Yeah, that's
going to be interesting.
And that's something that is highly undervalued, I think, a lot of times when you're trying to evaluate an ecosystem to build on, that you need this type of tooling available to you and these type of SDKs, because otherwise what happens, and again, I'm sure this is stuff that you guys in your own project have thought about, is like, well, how much of this am I going to build myself if I want to access this? Or maybe part of it's like, well, we're not going to offer this feature because we would have to build so much infrastructure. When you have this available to you, it changes the whole perception of how you then think about your product, because now you can focus on outcomes versus the infrastructure piece itself.
Yeah. And I think I'll let you take the explanation on this next one, because when I was writing this piece, well, I had to message you guys what is going on here. And I know you like you're quite experienced with validator nodes, so I'd like to hear more from you on that.
Yeah, centralized state sync is really exciting, and I guess exciting kind of quotes. I really like exciting, but I get the concept of like a validation, and especially around like how validators work now and how you set one up. So first off, the way validators work is that you have to start from a place where you are matched up to the rest of the network. So if you come online and you're a new validator, usually you start with like a snapshot from a certain point in time, and then the validator needs to catch up. So the snapshot usually is within a few hours of where you're starting, because otherwise if it's too far out, it's going to take too long to catch up. Well, this takes a little different approach, and it's kind of like for lack of a better example, like a BitTorrent kind of model where it's peer-to-peer. So it can start to actually sync from your peers directly and have all the synchronization come from what's on the network. This does a couple different things. One, it speeds up the time for you to match up with the network. It takes the pressure off of having to have a snapshot that is going to be in the right window. And this happens to sometimes the people. So let's say the snapshot's every 6 hours. If your system takes too long to download that snapshot and then try to again catch up, you're like in this like loop of like always trying to catch up. So like that's where sometimes people get thrown off a little bit. This would start to eliminate all of that. And so now do that. Where I think this is probably long term, and again, I'm just speculating, but now as you bring in more kind of lighter weight nodes, right, for just like state validation and things like that, that you don't have to hold all of this history either, because now you can kind of confirm with the other nodes that, you know, everybody's in sync, everybody can agree. And so it's a little bit different aspect of how that goes. So it just opens up more possibilities when you don't have to have this heavyweight thing to just get started.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there seems to be a few benefits there. I wonder, like, what the downsides of it, whether like is it difficult to implement, or like what is the drawback to this?
I gotta imagine implementation is probably difficult. You know, definitely, you know, I don't know the peer-to-peer protocol super well, but I would have to imagine that part of the hang-up would also be that like everyone still has to be sending the same packets of information correctly. And so I don't know how that works if there is a bad actor in the middle there on your network. So I'm sure this is all stuff that Bowen and his team think deeply about and have solved for. I don't know.
Yeah, let's leave it to them.
Yeah, I just don't know off the top of my head, but those are probably considerations they have to have. Yeah. Illusion of speed was the next thing, and this is a great presentation. And I, as someone who is a developer but really focuses a lot on product, I love this talk because this is the stuff that was like right in the wheelhouse, I think, of a lot of devs. They don't even realize it. Of like, you know, Web3 has had this issue of feeling slow, not being able to catch up to what Web2 experience feels like. There are errors and issues that come up for an average user. They would have no idea what's happening. And this talk was really great because it addresses a few different ways of, one, solving for that. But two, I just like the theme of it, of saying like, hey, how do you start to think a little outside of what is there by default in Web3?
Yeah, I think this was a really interesting talk. And like, I feel like it's somewhat like fake it till you make it in terms of the speed, because some like interesting trickery is going on in the front end, because there's a limit to how quick you can make the blockchain and how quick you can process these transactions. So I think in here there's really some interesting ideas of how you can make it quicker and really improve the UX. And I know that like from this talk, as DevRels, we're going to be implementing like these, well, looking to implement these standards across our examples and have these as like the best practices to go to, so we can provide like a better user experience. And I know, go ahead.
I think the secret though here is that like, or maybe people don't realize, is that like this actually comes from a lot of Web 2 stuff. Like Web 2 sometimes also feels fast because a lot of this stuff is actually like natively already implemented into things that they're doing. Like, yes, you are not like, when you have a centralized service, yes, writing to a SQL database is so much faster. Like I get, like that's 100% true. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that a lot of apps that you use that are using the same kind of tactics to make the experience feel faster. The difference here is that on Web 2 and centralized services, what you can make is something that is deterministic, that you say, okay, I know this outcome is going to happen if I do X, Y, and Z, is not always the case on Web3. There's some stuff that is maybe a little bit more variable at times. And so that's where I think it's a little bit tougher, and it's been something where people haven't gotten to that point. But like this
What do
happens
you
here in
mean
Web2.
by what do you mean by like non-deterministic sort of?
So many transactions. So like when you're using a different app, like let's say you're using like a food delivery app or whatever else, like there are things that are happening absolutely in the background without you knowing, that are probably pushing things along faster than, like, for your user experience, than is actually really happening in the back end. That could be including like payment transaction, checking payment things. It could be something as simple as verifying something that is in stock or out of stock, whatever that might be. And the app or the website will keep pushing you along and giving you different feedback accordingly, but where you feel like you're progressing still. You don't feel like you're waiting on something else. And so that stuff has been in Web 2 for a while. And now in Web 3, you're starting to see more of that start to come to play with the stuff like in this talk where, Eugene is talking about saying here, like, hey, you can auto retry transactions without prompting the user again, right? Like, just do it. Like, just have it happen. And that's the little stuff that makes a difference, because if you know the expected outcome, you can just push that stuff along. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like it's sort of like, how we can view blocks like final and optimistic. I feel like this is like super optimistic view, that you're presenting the front end before it's executed. I think that's interesting, and I've seen the result of, like, when these things, like when you see something happen optimistically but it's not actually executed. Like the other day I was booking my hotel for Redacted, and it was like, hey, yeah, you've got this place. And then I had like my payment taken, and the hotel was just not available anymore. So I think it's interesting when these things don't go as you expect them to.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think handling that will be interesting. But I know what is really nice to this is that they're building out a whole ass like SDK, so it's easier. You don't have to think, how do I do this? I'm not Eugene. I cannot figure out how to do this. Well,
Right.
you should just be able to call some API or SDK or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, and that's, again, this is all the stuff for devs that, like, this tooling is here available. And so hopefully this feels less intimidating over time for everyone as they see this stuff come through. We're going to highlight all these talks are all on the Near Protocol YouTube channel. Every single talk from Redacted is there. You can go back and watch through all of them. There's some really interesting stuff across each part of it. I learned a lot of different things just myself of going through and watching some of it. And there's even some good little demos in there as well. So check them out.
Yeah, I really liked putting the newsletter together over the last few weeks, because it gave me an excuse to like go watch these talks and add them to the newsletter. So it was great to like, you always end up just talking to people at these events instead of going and watching the talk. So I got a bit of time to look over and see what great things are happening.
Totally. Research Hub is whatever, I think that's fairly self-explanatory. We talked a little bit about the AI assistant. Intense that, so this was kind of previewed at Redacted. This was a little bit about, this is actually kind of coming live with some more stuff and more tangible things in the next week or so. Intents are, again, something that fits into that AI agent stack really well. And a lot of them right now are all focused on DeFi. Here, let me pull up the actual blog site. I mean, how would you simplify that? I mean, I guess what an intent actually is.
Well, I talked about it a little earlier, but for me, an intent is you just say what you want to happen, and then something makes it happen. Like you have intents and then you have solvers. So I can say that I want to swap. Well, swap is the easy case. We're going back to DeFi here, but I want to swap near for USDC on. Well, we can go chain specific. So let's say USDC on Arbitrum, but I don't know the path to make that happen, because I could bridge like Solana and then bridge to Polygon and then get to Arbitrum, or I can go some 500 different paths. And it's sort of like, what is that algorithm called? Dijkstra's shortest path or something. But it's like the cheapest path. So you have all these solvers come in saying, hey, I have this solution for you. And what is the cheapest of those solutions? I can just have it like auto picked for me. Yeah, I would say that's how I would go ahead and explain.
Yeah, I think that's a. Yeah, it's going to be interesting again, I think, to see what comes there. And it's opportunity for people where, again, like if you don't want to build agents, like there's other things that you can build in AI that fit into this. If you want to build the intent layer, if you want to add to that, if you want to build solvers, like there's so much that to be built. And wherever like people feel comfortable, I think there's opportunities for you to jump in there for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think like intent is a pretty key thing in AI. However, it's not limited to AI. So the presentation and the product that is using this diffuse is, I don't believe, has an AI element to it, but they're the first use case on there of using intents, where the solvers are just like companies or people coming along and solving it for you instead of an agent.
Yeah.
And I believe right now that with diffuse and near intents that it's being implemented sort of like inside of the contract, but intents as a whole is like becoming available to the protocol to sort of streamline things and make it easier to implement. So that'd be exciting. And with like when chain signatures came along, there was a whole new like paradigm and shift of thinking how you create applications. And I'm excited to see like what paradigm shift and how do you now think again of how you're building an application with intents?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All of this stuff, and that's why I think this was, for me as a developer, like, I really want to get across to people like this is opening so many doors. Like, coming into Web3 previously has really been somewhat restrictive of like what paths you want to take, and now it's really opening up to all the like supposed use cases that people were talking about a couple years ago. Like crypto will be great for X. Like now you can actually start to build on top of that, and now you start to consider what that looks like. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And I don't think we need to go through all of this parts here because I want to go to the next newsletter. But I think this quote actually kind of sums it up, is just that, like, there's going to be a lot of attention, token price aside, because of all these different things that are happening. AI is very popular in the general zeitgeist of technology, and you're starting to see that crypto is embracing it really well, because there are things that crypto can do, smartly with AI that was not possible before. So it is going to be a very interesting 12 months here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's jump to the most recent one here, and I think a lot of cool stuff coming out of here. Let's right off the bat is like what KeyPalm is doing. Let me actually open this up, because there's a lot to this for onboarding.
Yeah, and if you don't know, well, maybe, yeah, we can take a look at this and then maybe even try it out for ourselves. Live demo. Should we?
Yeah.
Should we give it a go?
Yeah. So basically, if you may not have heard of maybe either one, but let's say we'll just assume that maybe you've heard at least of maybe FastOff at one time before. But FastOff essentially was a way to use your email to sign up for a Near wallet, and it was fairly streamlined, because then you could just kind of log in. KeyPalm is essentially expanding upon that, but actually taking it a step further. And you can actually start to use multiple chains, and they're using MPCs and everything else. So here, let me
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how this is working, because instead of having like a sort of account, you have like this account object. Yeah, well, this account on the blockchain, and you're directly interacting through that by like signing with your private key that you have somewhere, whether that be in a wallet or your ledger or whatever.
Yep.
This is sort of operating where there's, to my understanding, that there's one contract, and this contract is verifying signatures, or verifying like auth tokens, or verifying ZK proofs that you own like an email, or you own a Discord, or you own whatever, maybe even like your national identity, and this is verifying it. And from there, we know that an account and a contract can derive like a near infinite amount of its own accounts. So you're sort of having this like proxy contract, which then gives you access to your own account based upon whatever verification you're doing there. And it's not just like we can do it with near accounts, but it can also be like whatever account, right? On whatever chain. Just verifying in a near contract.
Yeah, totally. Here, let's like Google. So you can't see it because my screen is being shared, but it gave me the normal Google pop-up to pick my account. I'll pick my account. Let's see, continue. I'm just actually just waiting on Google. Google's the one that's actually holding up.
And yeah, all of like each transaction you're sending here is being routed via the MPC. So at the moment, it's very reliant upon the MPC and its speed.
So there we go. So I signed in. I hit my Google account. That gave me this new wallet. All right, so I can say hello. So when I went to sign it, it has not prompted me anywhere off screen.
And yeah, it will take a fair bit of time because it's relying on the speed of the MPC.
Yeah.
But I know their true mission is like to stick with the NPC, and because they know, or at least we all hope, that the NPC is going to speed up, and you can just do a transaction in like, I don't know, 2 seconds or something.
Yeah, it's also
I think
the testnet version too. So like,
yeah, I think right now it's taking, well, this one's a bit longer, but on average it's like 10 to 15 seconds, which it's interesting because we like improve UX on one point, and then it diminishes it at another.
yeah, it's definitely a balance back and forth a little bit here. Well, this is well, we'll give this another second here.
Live demos.
Yes.
But it's really cool how
Yeah.
we don't have any seed phrase or whatever associated with this account.
No.
We just logged into one here. But like, that being said, we have private keys for a reason, and that's because they're safe. And we have wallets for a reason, and it's because they're safe and non-custodial. So I know in their roadmap is to have like an offboarding or onboarding experience to a wallet after you've played around with like a trial account. I don't think this is meant to be.
No. Yeah.
I think it's like they're going for incremental steps of self-custody with this.
All right. Well, I think the NPC
Maybe
is taking
next
a while,
time.
but we get the idea. But I logged me in, which is great. They're doing this. It's a great conversation here. If you go look at the tweet, and he has all the different information here in their GitHub as well too. So definitely check that out. You know, some other great stuff. You just had Sandy from Calmero on last week talking about privacy. They just released private DAOs. Anything in that reference there?
Well, if you want to learn more, watch last week's episode. But in summary, blockchain by default, not private. If you implement Calamero or some other privacy protocol, then you can have like private data and not expose everything on chain. But I know how this DAO is working. Is like the proposals and the voting is sort of happening privately, but then when the outcome is settled, whether the proposal was successful or not successful, well, taking the success case, like some payment or function call will be made, and then that will be like public because it's settled on the chain.
Right. Yeah. No, great. I mean, and this is, I think we're beating a dead horse a little bit here, but this is all this stuff that, again, I hope people are starting to see these connections of like, hey, if I'm going to start building, there are all these different opportunities here to be creative and things that maybe were concerns of yours of like, hey, I need extra privacy here. Well, these things are here, and like these tools are available, and so you can start building there. Chain on
abstraction.
Slime, who is just constantly building all the time. Released a new repo containing a service that indexes transactions in different chains. Gets the transaction hashed by the signature. It was definitely great for chain signatures. Click through to it. We can certainly get to that.
Well, I don't think the link it works here.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is interesting, and it's all along. I know there's a few efforts on this along the lines of mapping transactions. You found it. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Mapping transactions to like NPC transactions to the actual transaction on the on the destination chain. We can see an example here with the I don't know what you call it. The Explorer links down below.
Yep. Connect on near endpoint. Let's look. Yep. So it then connects back to what that is. And then you can see, okay, so this transaction linked to this one led to this. There you go. So it's infrastructure. It's not like a full website. But again, I mean, this is useful for when you need to start pulling that stuff in and someone can build on top of this. That can allow you to implement maybe a whole front end, things like that. So yeah, definitely good stuff here. I did not actually see this. I need to know more. Blockchain in a text file. What is this about?
Well, to be honest, I don't particularly know myself. And Vlad Frol suggested this piece as well, and I went, "What exactly is this about?" And he was like, "I don't exactly know either." But it was a really interesting video, and I think sort of like a thought experiment of how we can understand blockchains. And this guy talks about like a different type of blockchain, and then goes about adding like the whole of the near blockchain into a text file. I wonder if he succeeded in that yet.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's if you're trying to like think out the box about blockchains as a whole, I suppose, then this is an interesting one to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like one of those experiments, right? I just like let me just try something different, and I'll just show you the Reddit page here. Like, here we go.
Yeah, it's mainly just linking to a video here.
So interesting. There's there you go. Oh, cloud action. Nice. Okay. Interesting. So he's just trying to pull all this data into one thing. All the transactions.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive how he was able to do a lot of this within 8 minutes, and how I see he uses multiple different AI tools here.
Yeah.
And how your development speed can just like 100x with these tools.
Yeah, that's almost like the more interesting part here is like, trying, how do I solve a problem now? It's like, okay, I can solve this by, leveraging all these different AI tools. I can really start to experiment. And yeah, this is a great, like, looks like a great little showcase of problem solving and going through that. I'll have to go back and actually watch this full 8 minutes. Very cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting watch.
Talked about the
we always give a run through of the biggest items the previous week.
Yeah. At the bottom, he did share this video, and I did think this was actually a good video to kind of end on. Really talking about ways chain abstraction can be used. And here, let me pull this up here. You can see it. This is a strong group here that really talking about like what it means to actually build a chain abstraction, how it actually gets leveraged. So much stuff right now is talked about hypothetically, and we have some people in this group here who are actually leveraging it and talking about how to use it. So it's not too long. It's less than 30 minutes, or 20 minutes here. I definitely would encourage people to just listen to this discussion and get a little better sense of like what chain abstraction is and can be. If they're not really sure right now, this is a good practical overview.
Yeah, and I know a lot of these chain abstraction products are like still building, because
Yeah.
To be honest, like a lot of the products have not been done before, and it's quite a big undertaking. So
And you
it
can
will take a while for these to launch, but I don't think I'm yet prepared for when all these products do launch, and it'll be amazing, like what we're gonna have available to us.
you even had apparently a ninja on stage as well. So this is some outfit. I had to say the anonymity. This is like
Yeah, it's classic crypto anon.
that's great. It's like it's one of these things. It's like I understand it completely, especially like we're doing like DeFi. Like I understand, but at the same time, like if you try to explain this to other people who are outside of it, it's like listen, I went to this conference and like look at the rest of the on stage, right? Hold on, you know, here we go. Like it's just like it's so hard. Like people just don't even believe you. You're just like, what do you mean somebody was wearing a mask and you know, like,
I
chilling
think we live in a completely different universe, and one of the things I do love about the ecosystem and the like Web3 that we work in is a lot of it can be unserious and fun. Like we all have stupid profile pictures and
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure.
and you just don't see this elsewhere. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely funny. I mean, you know, like you have all this stuff, right? Especially like all your meetings probably have like your like Web3 profile pic, and then all of a sudden now you got to go to like a parent teacher conference and you log in, and there's some stupid PFP showing up. You know, it's like, all right,
Is that from a personal story?
absolutely. I had to, or like last night I had to. My daughter had a team meeting over meetings or whatever, you know, Google Meet, whatever. And yeah, like everyone has like either on camera or has like just no profile pic. I have my dog thing, you know, like my dog avatar on there, and people are like, "Who is this?" Just, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, I've had a few times like, joining calls and like more professional people messaging me, and it's just I've changed it now to the Black Dragon profile pic, but
Yeah.
that big orange cat.
Yeah. All right. Like, it's not even worth explaining. It's just like whatever. Like just we'll just move on. Yeah. Well, I think it's good. Listen, I think it's an exciting time to be building in Web3. I think it's an exciting time to be building in Near. There's a lot of opportunities. While AI is a heavy focus on Near, hopefully people are seeing there are a lot of opportunities to build different things that maybe AI can leverage. It is not simply just building agents. There are other things that are needed that go into it. And as always, we list in our email all the different resources to get started. We encourage people to do that. At the bottom, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter already, it is there. Owen does a great job every single week curating the news that is relevant. And it's important because we are all builders who are providing specs. So we understand what is needed and necessary. We are actively building projects here on the network as well. We're not just shilling something or whatever else. We are actually doing what we say.
Yeah, I don't think you can be a DevRel unless you're building something in the ecosystem that you're shilling so much.
Totally. Nice. Well, great. Next week, we actually have a fun episode coming up. So we brought back kind of a modified version of some of our bounty matching. So we did a bounty matching thing for hackathons earlier in the year with minimal success with that. But we brought it back a little bit, and we're not matching all bounties, but we are looking at something that people who are building in the ecosystem, that especially with like BitDay and things like that, if you are getting a bounty from different places, we are open to possibly matching them. So again, we're not promising anything, But we think it's a great opportunity for developers to come in and be rewarded for the work they're doing. There's also great things coming from Horizon to better reward developers who are building here regularly and contributing regularly as well. So we'll have more information on that. But next week, we have our first new bounty recipient coming on. Talk about what they built on Bid Day. It's a DAO agent. We're going to demo the agent. We're talking about the bounty program, all that stuff. So that's next week. DevHub Live. All through the rest of December, we're trying to get more devs to come on and talk about some of the different experiences, kind of go from there. And then we will be bringing back more workshops as well, just like we did for the Redacted Hackathon. So lots of good stuff still ahead.
Awesome.
Any last words, Owen? Anything you want to end on here?
Not particularly. I was on the town hall previously, so I've done enough talking today.
Yeah, enough screen video. I get it. Nice. Well, this was good. I like seeing and reviewing everything too. It's good for myself too, to make sure I'm on top of all the news. But thanks everyone for joining us. As always, please follow along, and we will see you same time. We'll start a little late today, but normal time next week. Take care. Bye now.
Bye-bye.